Okay, I've got a big announcement to make. Washed my hair and everything. That's not the announcement, it's because of the announcement. The new book is ready for pre-order. This isn't actually the new book, this is a picture of the cover, printed on a bit of paper and wrapped around next year's diary. It'll be a while before that one's published. So a few facts about the book. It's diary format, like all the books are, but this one's about cycling in India and China about 20 years ago. And it's got the usual humour and the introspection and the observation and the excesses and the occasional unexpected achievement. The things that you come to expect from my ramblings. Rather than hold this fake book, I'm going to put an image of it up there where the router is because it's a bit unsightly. The router, not the book. So I think for the chosen few, my faithful followers who will kill for me, that's all the information you need and you can pre-order here. But for those of you without mercenary tendencies, the more cautious, sceptical and curious of you, who, like me, might want to read or hear a little bit about the latest offering from someone they describe to before they go out and purchase it, here is a full-blown explanation. This is kind of a FAQ, but as soon as this is the first announcement, I suppose it's more of a FPQ, frequently predicted questions, that occur during, and in fact probably the cause of, my insomnia. It's what I consider in my darkest hours of self-doubt and what I anticipate the potential reader will want to know. And breaking it all down in the following format kind of refreshes in my own head what I've been doing for the last year and what's to come. So here are the extra details. Right, well, here's the thing. Some books have a title before the first paragraph is even written. If you take In Search of Greener Grass, for example, that title came to me whilst I was riding across the Mongolian steppe. The journey wasn't even close to finish at that point. In fact, I didn't even really know where it was going to end. Or that it will become a book that is still selling 13 years later. The current book, though, has several working titles. But the one I like the best, turns out the whiskey wasn't necessary, didn't work. Because the original manuscript was split into 3. And in the first book, I hadn't discovered that, well, that the whiskey wasn't necessary. That is a discovery I made in book 2. No, actually there's 3. But wait, because I haven't finished explaining about the title yet. So if you can just calm down a bit. Look, you see, these are the cycling years, and bicycling, by definition, is done at a slower pace. Well, certainly compared to, say, motorcycling. So calm your haste. Right, the titles. Actually, you know what? I think I'm just going to do that in another mail out, and I'll explain it all then. See, there you go again. I haven't told you about the cover yet. It has been suggested by my privileged inner circle of reviewers that it's the best cover of all my books. That is, I sent a picture of the cover via WhatsApp when I'd had a few drinks to a friend of mine. Anyway, she liked it. Then I got the other 2 versions, and that's why I had to conduct the survey. And one thing became very clear from all your comments. I know why you like my books. Because you're as opinionated as I am. Which generally isn't a problem, but it does make it a bit tricky when I'm trying to narrow it down to one book. All very valid comments, by the way, and thanks for taking the time to make them. In fact, I think I'll give you the full cover story in another video, because now I think about it, it's quite a long story. But the point is, I've got this truly talented illustrator and designer who has created this cover. And you might know her by her YouTube name as the Magpie Flies. And her name's Amanda Zito, and she's an illustrator and full-time motorcycle content-based YouTuber out of USA. Incidentally, how she funds this is through a yearly illustrated motorcycle calendar, and really top quality images, really captivating and capture the feeling of motorcycling. And I'll put a link down here so you can have a look at some of her artwork and the calendar if you want to. So this is a pre-order for the first book in the trilogy. But unlike the Nirvana series, I know, listen. I know many of you have been waiting for the next instalment and it will be out next year. But this new cycle of stories is complete. Let me explain. You want to know why 3? Well, I have said some of this before, if you've bothered to read the mail outs I send you. In January this year, I started to write a very short story that was going to be a permanent free Kindle download. The idea being it could introduce new readers to my writing and help grow a bigger audience and generate some sales of the back catalogue. However, that short story required a bit of a backstory, and that story progressed into a narrative from the following year's trip. 10 months after I started writing it, and 220,000 words later, that's a lot of words. Well, some things are hard to gauge by their defining measurements. The average oil tank, for example, weighs about 100,000 tonnes, which sounds like a lot, but it's difficult to imagine. Now, life expectancy, on the other hand, is about 5,000 weeks, which doesn't seem that much. All the more reason to get to the point. This is the longest book I've written. Until now, the aforementioned In Search of Greener Grass was the longest at about 153,000 words. And the shortest was Not Working, which was about 103,000 words. And the other 3 were between about 110 and 130,000 words. Anyway, such a big book is daunting to pick up, expensive to print and heavy to post. There were 4 distinct parts in the story, so confusingly, on the advice of my copy editor, we've divided it into a trilogy, and therefore making it far more affordable, carryable, readable and cheap to post, especially if you're overseas. And that's important, because I am. Well, there's a theme. Rambling On is the series name, as I tend to ramble on a bit. Now, if you'll let me continue. The Indian cycling trip started in Sri Lanka and it ended in Nepal. And if that's not confusing enough, the China cycling trip begins and ends in Thailand. So not that easy to sum up. In between the cycling, I was rambling on via different means, hiking in the Himalayas, Indian trains. And when I was knackered, I just got on a bus or hitched a ride on a truck. The book is entitled I Should Have, and the next one will be I Could Have, and the last one will be You're ahead of me, aren't you? Yeah, I would have. Well, there's a lot to tell. There was a lot to learn. And the only thing I really knew about cycling in Asia was that I wanted to do it. Internet research was in its infancy at the time, and I was a computer illiterate idiot anyway. So I pretty much made every mistake in the book I didn't have, hadn't read, didn't know existed, still don't, which is why I wrote this one, these ones. Oh God, no. I didn't know anything about long distance overland cycling at the time. And I was drinking a lot back then. There were some demons that needed drowning. And the thing about cycling is there's no helmet to contain those demons, and there's no windscreen to shelter you from exposure. So if you do choose to come along for this ride, albeit at a slower pace, you'll see that the speed allows exclusive insights, both introspective and into the lives of those that you pass. You're exposed, you're vulnerable, so inevitably you're briefly part of those lives that you pass through. It's not just that. I would never have started on a book that I knew was going to take me so long to write, or cover such a long span of time. And neither would I embarked on a journey that was going to be so physically challenging, not to mention all the other hardships I wasn't expecting. Even having studied Mandarin Chinese for 18 months before my departure didn't really help me with all the challenges that were coming my way. However, getting to the eastern edge of the Himalayas under my own power in freezing January temperatures was just as rewarding as discovering that this opus will eventually become a trilogy, And hopefully it will be as entertaining as informative as my previous 5 books have. I think the difference you might experience though, reading this one, is it might not be as motivating because I make no secret of the fact that cycling is really bloody hard and it never really got any easier. I'm not sure why. Perhaps it's my excessive baggage or bulging panniers, or I should have just left the whiskey. Well, I was trying to tell you earlier, and I feel like I've said enough. So I'll give you more insight in the next post. But like all Christmas posts, it might be a bit delayed. There is one thing though. I was hoping for a Christmas release, but it's just going to be too rushed. The whole point of this style of travel is it's slow, relaxed, enjoyable, calm. And also it's been a year's work. And I'm not just going to rush it at the last bit just to get it done in time to go under the tree. Instead, this polished, refined offering will come through your letterbox and bring a light into your life when the post-Christmas January gloom of long nights and exhausted Netflix binge watching has redecorated the lounge, seeming like a viable distraction. This is what's going to save you. Okay, there will undoubtedly be an audio version, but it will more likely be available to listen to while you're mowing the lawn as opposed to snow shoveling. And you won't get the benefits of the stunning illustrations. There'll also be a few extras in the printed book that won't be in the Kindle version. And also, Kindle readers are going to have to hang on a bit as well. This is a pre-order just for you, my subscribers. And other formats will be available on other platforms, but that will be later on in the year, next year. Bloody hell, give me a chance. I'm only just doing the finishing touches on this one. But I reckon the next book will go into production right after Christmas. So it will probably be out in February and then maybe the next one in May, maybe, I don't know. Yep, that's it. Here,